you know, this is an opportunity for everyone to improve, not to move back. There's no desire to move back. I think it was frankly very unfortunate when some folks chose to scare students that they are supposed to be protecting. So I think that was an unfortunate process, and the only way I could deal with it, once again, is through the gentleman at the beginning that asked about transparency, and say, take me up on it. See whether I'm real or not. See whether I show up. That's the answer. And I'll tell you, food works. Especially Italian food. I should have been born Italian. Yes, ma'am.
Food works for me also.
I'm sorry?
Food works for me also.
That works for most people.
My name is Trace Godoy. I'm an staff here on campus. My concern being able to work with some students, especially in the multicultural area.
Right.
I speak Spanish as well, so we can talk in Spanish. If
My
we
wife makes, excuse me, my daughter makes fun of my Spanish nowadays.
So I work in the area of the students of multicultural student affairs. I was helping to inform the students up that 41% on last year so that they could be aware and understand that they are here. Right. And we need to continue to retain services, as you stated, to increase and grow retention services for multiculturalism on campus, not just, like you stated, the year of Russia. My main concern primarily with knowing that you stated it's 40% student graduation rate overall. There's another graduation rate that we here at the university have that not a lot of people, I would tend to say, may have paid high attention to, although it's an initiative of the school. We have the African American Male Initiative here.
Right, that Arlethea Perry.
She's the University Systems Director Program.
Right. But
we have the KSU AMI program here that at most institutions, Ms. Perry will tell you, when highly supported, it's out of the office of the president, with knowing that it is a university initiative. Right. At this point, your AMI program at KSU falls under student affairs, which falls under student engagement, which falls under multicultural affairs. So my question is, can we here at KSU with this program count on your support as well? And if needed, to follow like other schools of Tech, Gordon, and even sister schools of West Georgia and Highland, in making sure and ensuring that that support comes out of your office as well? So
the answer, so good question, right? The answer is push me on the issue, send me emails, send me data, send me data, not just your card.
No, but I got your data and I got your email, so I'll make sure you're aware.
And there's a gentleman that I've met that actually I knew in the community that's working on that initiative here, but Bob.
Yeah, Mr. Watts.
So I've known Bob for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, we go to church together, so
okay.
I go to
So which church do you go to?
Turner.
Okay. I've been to Pastor Marcus.
Yes.
Many, many times. You know, when you're the chair of the county, I spend a heck of a lot more time at African-American churches than synagogues.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So Pastor Marcus is great. And just give me the data. But also, since we talked about religion, and I know this is I know that there's two folks in the back that will get nervous over this. I'm not adverse to including the faith-based community naturally to be part of the solution. And they have expressed interest in being a part of the solution as well. I think that's great. I mean, I was good friends with Pastor Travis, who just retired from Zion, and know Pastor Scott at Pleasant Grove. Okay. And I'd be more than happy to have an initiative where they overtly are part of the process. Great. Okay? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is there a question right here?
Yes, sir. Here, I'll bring this to you.
Sorry. Whose hand is up for what?
My name is Josh. I'm an environmental science student here. This is my second bachelor's degree that I'm working toward. And the reason I came back to school is that I'm very, very concerned about climate change. So I wanted to know, as president of the university now, do you have any plans in place to have KSU take a role in doing something about that?
Thank you. So when I had the first meeting with the President's Commission on the 6 areas, I talked to, of course, one of those is sustainability. And I had a little discussion in the group with the professor who's been that point person but who's retiring. So I've already talked to the provost about needing to set and enforce the change in that regard. And there's actually a professor who's gone forward with it wanting to do that. So my response was, I think he thought that because I was an elected Republican, I had my head in the sand.
That's kind of what I think.
Okay, well, I would suggest to you that putting people in boxes seldom works. And my answer to him was I was already familiar with the fact that Emory and Georgia Tech were light years ahead of us. And the question is, what do you need to do to get us where they are from a campus perspective, et cetera, because we are very different. I'm not Rudy Giuliani. That's good. Okay? I squirm a lot of times. I think it is a really dangerous, and I'm really being candid here, and I'm really being, don't put me in a corner. Republicans come in all shapes and sizes, just like Democrats come in all shapes and sizes. And one of the great things I love about being president of this university is hopefully I have a hell of a lot of partisanship to deal with. That I have a lot less partisanship to deal with. The world isn't made, or this country isn't made of R&Ds, it's made of human beings. Okay? So by definition, I know some folks were like, oh my God, the new president's an elected Republican. Get over it, whatever, I was. I'm now president of the university. The issue here is how we move us forward. That doesn't mean having your head in the sand. That means moving things forward. So I, for one, gave them the challenge. Give me your plan for how you're going to bring us up to Emory and Georgia Tech. The surprise I had was that the Kennesaw campus is ahead of the Marietta campus, which I didn't anticipate at that point from a sustainability perspective. So, so it's another one of those areas where I would tell you, challenge us to be better. Challenge us to improve. Yes, sir.
So my follow-up to that is, I'm not trying to put you in a box as a Republican, but my specific, I understand that. My specific concern is with your role as Attorney General. As I understand it, you sued the Obama administration over the Clean Power Plan.
Right.
And as I also understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have stocks in Georgia Power.
Well, my wife works for Georgia Power.
Right. So did that factor into that decision at all?
You don't think I have that much stock, do you?
I have no idea how much stock.
So the answer to your question is I was the attorney for the state. As the attorney for the state, I represent the state. Unabashedly, that was my job. So my job was to represent the interest of the state as it was expressed to me. So for instance, I represented EPD, the state EPA. I represented the governor. I represented numerous other state agencies. It would be wrong to list my actions following my oath of office as a lawyer representing the state and personal opinions. Two different worlds. This job doesn't place that restraint on me. The job of being the state's lawyer overtly put that restraint on me. Because when you're part of the executive branch, not the judicial branch, it's the role of the courts to make those calls, the balls and strikes, not the executive branch. So the job's totally different. That's one of the things I really like is I don't have those restraints anymore. So the more you meet with me, the more you talk with me, the more you may understand that we're all not the same shape, size, etc. in that regard. And I mean that seriously because pigeonholing people seldom is accurate and seldom is constructive. You got to have a detailed process rather than, so right, did the state of Georgia sue under the Clean Power Plan? Absolutely. Was that my job? Absolutely. Did I do my job? Absolutely. I'm not the state's lawyer today.
So are you prepared to accept that climate change is happening and that this is a problem and
What?
it's human induced?
Well, why why wouldn't you think that I thought there was climate change before? See, one of the big issues with the Clean Power Plan, we'll get a little bit legal more than you want. There's a theory called cooperative federalism. When the EPA was created with the Clean Air Act, the idea was that the federal government set standards on emissions. The states had the jurisdiction to get us there. Under the President's Clean Power Plan, the rule is the federal government decides how you get there. So the issue wasn't whether you needed to make improvement, the issue was who gets to do the improvement, by the state or by the federal government. That's the big legal issue in the Clean Power Plan, is whether you usurp the role of state government and whether the EPA gets to make that decision. The litigation over the Clean Power Plan, and let me go to other questions so I'm being fair with folks, is not whether there's climate change. I think that discussion should have been out the window a long time ago. The question is, what's the jurisdiction of the governments in that regard?
President Olens, we have time for about 3 more questions. So,
I was hoping you'd say 10.
unless you people that haven't asked questions.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Edmund Tella. I'm a member of the International Student Association, which is part of MSA. We work very closely with other organizations such as the African Student Association and the African American Student Association, as well as the Muslim Student Association. Now, one of the primary concerns that I've been hearing about as a member from them and from other groups is the question of their feeling of safety on campus.
Right.
A lot of people in a lot of different demographics do not feel fundamentally safe here. They feel like their lives and their safety are threatened by the different things that are going on campus.
Right.
So my question is, what will you as president do to ensure that every student, no matter what demographic they belong to, can come to school, get an education, get their degree without having to fear for their own safety?
Okay, so the question is a difficult one because no one can provide 100% safety in this country because our love of freedom and liberty is greater than our love of Big Brother, right? So the question is, what can you reasonably do to assure safety? You can't guarantee safety. And I would suggest to you, after meeting with the police chief, after meeting with folks, we need to commit to doing whatever's necessary in that regard. You know, it's interesting in the time up before me being appointed president, I saw on Facebook a post, he's Jewish, so that means he's anti-Muslim. I didn't know that. I actually am very tight with the Muslim leadership in our state. I have gone to numerous programs with the Muslim leadership, whether it's Sumaya Khalifa, who you may know from ISB, or from the mosque in Marietta, have been very, very active there. So I think when concerns are raised, when issues occur, you need to contact me, you need to tell me about it. There, you know, candidly, whether it's KPA, whether it's the Muslim students, everyone has to be protected. There is no, you protect these 3, but you don't protect those 4. Everyone needs to feel safe. Everyone needs to be protected. There's no room. Now, can I guarantee a perfect world on campus? No. I have no doubt that based on some emails I've received lately, some comments have been made that are racist lately, that are totally inappropriate. But as a university, we need to speak out about those statements. We need to say there's no place on campus for those statements, but we also can't infringe on the Constitution. So you almost have to sort of embarrass folks to behave properly. But where there's a concern over safety, you've got to frankly talk to the Public Safety Office, and if they don't respond to you in a timely manner, then you need to immediately contact me, because that should not be an option in this process. No group should ever be fearing their safety on a college campus, let alone this campus. So that's once again an area where you have specific requests, specific proposals, tell me. You know, send it to me. I'm open to meet with all of the associations you mentioned, because there is no place on this campus for that concern. Not that there isn't that concern, but we need to do as much as we can to protect every student on this campus. Okay? I know that's hard, but get me engaged in the specific discussion. Let's see what steps need to be done to improve it. Okay? I don't recall.
Two more. So I saw your hand.
I don't think this lady asked a question before.
Hi, I'm Olena part of the Communications Committee. As an incoming freshman in the honors program, I've heard many concerns about scholarship opportunities. And I just want to ask, how do you plan on expanding scholarship opportunities for incoming freshmen? And how do you plan on improving the competitiveness of the honors program as myself and other students feel that it's lacking, especially in the science and mathematics fields?
Okay, so once again, I'm only here 2 weeks, so I can only be at the 10,000 foot level. The Dean of the Honors College is Rita, I'm sorry? Rita Bailey, okay. I've met with her already 2 or 3 times, very impressive individual. And we specifically talked about the fact that the Honors College isn't what it should be. She has since sent me some data on what she thinks is needed based on both scholarships as well as enhancements to the program. It's another one of those discussions I have where money's necessary to improve that. I will tell you it's essential. When I was talking to folks in the process of considering being president of this university, one of the recurring themes where there was much improvement needed was the Honors College. So it's clearly on my radar. And Rita Bailey has been very timely in giving me data as to what she thinks she needs to really move the program forward. I would tell you the same that I've told numerous folks. Send me emails. I'm not trying to be repetitive. I don't want you to think I'm not listening. I'm here 2 weeks. The 2 weeks plays into this issue. If I ask all those comments 2 years from now, then there's a problem. But right now, I'm clearly still in the fire hose. But I have had several meetings with Dean Bailey already. I'm frankly impressed by her. But there is no question it's not what it should be. And we need to work together in a timely to strengthen it. So one last question.
I see you. A lot fast.
So my name is Jessica Fisher. I'm a senior here at KSU. I work in the GLBTIQ student programs office as a student assistant.
Right.
And so I guess the question that I want to ask is, what are your plans to earn the trust of transgender students here at KSU, who, because of your previous actions, fear staying at KSU under your presidency?
Okay. So I would suggest that there never should have been fear, and that I wish those students, such as yourself, that expressed concern would have frankly picked up a phone and called me or emailed me.
That because over the summer, when you were still Attorney General, I called your office to, just voice my concern as a taxpayer and constituent, a voting
Right.
constituent. And the person on the other end of the phone, whose name I cannot remember, was very rude to me and asked me, am I trying to tell you how to do your job? And I tried to explain to them that I was only trying to voice my concern.
So once again, I can't respond to that. I'll tell you on the website, when we're talking about transparency, the website, if you go on law.ga.gov, which is the Attorney General website, there's a thing, click, email the Attorney General, it goes to me, it went to this phone. Okay, so there are ways to reach me. I apologize if the individual is rude. I was told specifically, I think quotes from you, concerns about potentially removing the DOR program, removing scholarships. There were 1 or 2 areas. None of them are going to be revised. Some of them may be strengthened, but not diminished in any way, shape, or form. If you talk to Jeff Graham, who's the head of Georgia Equality, and he was quoted in the newspaper. He would tell you that he has full support of my ability to protect students, transgender, LGBTIQ, etc. You know, about a month before the Obergefell decision came out, which is the same-sex marriage decision, I did a program with the Olena Press Club. And the first question after my comments was, what am I going to do if the Supreme Court rules against the constitutional amendment? So that we put this in context, Georgia citizens passed a constitutional amendment prohibiting same-sex marriage. They also had a statute prohibiting same-sex marriage. That's why I was defending Georgia law. And I told them I was going to do what lawyers do, or should do, which is obey the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court. The day the Obergefell decision came out, I issued a memo to all state agencies to expressly include probate judges and told them to follow the decision to immediately do same-sex marriages. For about 3 or 4 days thereafter, some of Jeff's folks would call me regularly and give me the names of probate judges that were not complying with the Obergefell decision. And myself and a probate judge from Cook County would call the probate judges and demand that they follow the law before we sued them. We did not have the situation that Kentucky had. We did not have the situation in Alabama. In fact, according to Jeff Graham, of the 13 states that had constitutional amendments or statutes that prohibited same-sex marriage, no state did it as quickly and efficiently as this state. I was in charge of that. So yes, you can disagree with me following my oath of office to defend Georgia law. But yes, when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against Georgia, no one was faster. And I'll tell you the telltale sign. Of all those 13 states that were defending their state laws, 12 of them paid at least 6 figures in attorney's fees for the winning side. Georgia didn't pay a dime because of the way we handled our briefs, the way we handled the action, and the professionalism we displayed. When the ACLU and the other plaintiff entities called and asked whether we would sign a consent order for the federal judge to rule that the constitutional amendment and the statute were unconstitutional and void, we immediately said yes, and they immediately agreed to waive any right to attorney's fees due to how we handled the case. So I would suggest to you, I would suggest to anyone, whether transgender, LGBTIQ, that my actions representing the state of Georgia were compliant with my oath of office. When the Supreme Court ruled contrary to Georgia law, we immediately, and I mean immediately, that same day, got out the memo saying follow the law. At no time should any student here have the slightest concern about whether I'm going to protect them, about whether I'm going to do anything to limit the privileges they already have on this campus. And frankly, in the email that we sent out probably a week and a half ago, I had already worked with Elkie Lead and Lectra, who's the interim head of our interim CIO, where we're already working with the University of Vermont both on what's called the D2L and the banner program they use with regard to preference, name preference, and pronoun. I'll ask you to assume that I didn't get any emails from LGBT students disagreeing with me. I'll ask you to assume I got contrary emails. That wasn't unexpected, but we're going to do what's right. Once again, my job is the Attorney General, and look, I'm unabashedly not embarrassed about being the state's lawyer. You know, for anyone who thinks that, it's a great honor to be the lawyer for your state. There's one per state, just like per governor. But the idea that every law our legislature legislature passes, I thought was a good law versus a bad law is ridiculous. You know, if I can't agree with my wife on everything, what makes you think I can agree with the Georgia legislature? The only difference is my wife has the only vote that counts. So from my perspective, and I did meet with one of the first meetings I had actually before I took office November 1 was with the president and vice president of KPA. And that was to try and get out the message that the concerns raised are wrong. Now, at the point I say something or do something that y'all disagree with me, well, ask me for it. But when I'm no longer the state's lawyer, give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm going to do the right thing rather than assume I'm going to do the wrong thing. That's all I'm asking for. Different job, different legal construct. As the president of this university, I neither have a partisan role nor am I bound in that same manner. But don't ask me to diminish my prior job. It's a great job. It's a great honor to be the state's lawyer. And I'm sure there's a lot of lawyers that would be thrilled to be the state's lawyer. Last question, sir.
I apologize. I'm a president of 2 clubs, and I started the clubs, became president.
So that's a good thing, so don't worry about it.
Yes. So I came late. Just for reference for the people who can't be here.
Right.
So I speak with a lot of people. I'm very well connected on campus.
Right.
And a lot of people were upset by the absence of a national search.
Right.
They were very upset by not you as a person, but the process of skipping a search and someone being appointed in.
Right.
So just what makes you qualified to be the president? And also, do you think that there's kind of like a justification for people being upset that the general program of having the general process of having a national search, searching out for the best candidate rather than having a candidate kind of given to us, appointed to us. And there's especially anger on the Marietta campus because they have the merger first on them, and then they have the.
Understood. So clearly, I respect and appreciate the concern. I didn't have a decision in that process. I expressed an interest in the position, but the applicant doesn't make those decisions. So I wasn't involved in the decision-making process. Having said that, I fully appreciate the concern. You'll note that the two new openings, Valdosta State and Georgia Southwestern, they are doing national searches. I think some people were concerned that when someone was appointed to KSU, that was going to be the model followed thereafter. The next 2, they're doing a national search. I'd like to think that there was something about my background that attracted the attention of the Chancellor and the Board of Regents, my prior government service, my prior public service. When I chaired Cobb County, I had responsibility, when you included SPOS money, sales tax money, for over $1 billion. As the state's Attorney General, I had responsibility with regard to all our laws. I also have 3 degrees. I'd like to think that prior service, I tell you who loves the fact that I'm here is the community, not meaning students, faculty, senate, Metro Atlanta. I can't go anywhere where folks don't go up to me saying, we're thrilled to have you at KSU. So what's my obligation? My job is to be transparent and to earn the trust of the community here.
So I guess
students, the faculty, and staff.
Well, I guess strictly speaking, for the academic community,
Right.
Well, respecting that you have degrees, I guess like peer-reviewed papers and
Right.
teaching classes. Do you have experience doing those things?
No, but let's
Mr.
talk
Olens, I'm
about.
going to let you finish that question, and then we're going to be out of time.
So let me respond to you. You know, years ago, the role of the university president was 100% academics. When you look at the questions propounded today, very few were academic. Now, I'm very, very interested in academics and moving the university forward. But nowadays, presidents are responsible for the efficient handling of a budget. Presidents are responsible for fundraising. Presidents are responsible for compliance with state and state and federal laws, such as the Clery Act that relates to safety, such as Title IX, which is a huge issue on all college campuses. The role of a president, frankly, has changed. Much more is requested. Kathy Cox is a great lady. She was a former Secretary of State, elected Democrat. For the past approximately 10 years, she's been the president of Young Harris College. She's a lawyer. When she went to the Harvard program for new university presidents, between a third and a fourth of the new presidents nationally were lawyers. The faculty, in a statement to me, said, we want you going to the Harvard School for New Presidents. We've already sent in the request for me to be at that request. Over time, the obligations and responsibilities of a president have frankly broadened. Over time, more and more burden is put on the provost in the strict academic sense. So what should that tell you? That should tell you that I'm going to be very reliant on the provost. That should tell you I'm going to be very reliant on SGA, the faculty senate, and the staff senate to provide information to me so that I learn and so that they teach me. That should show you that you'll actually have much more contact with me than maybe ever occurred between students, faculty, and staff and the university president before. Because I understand what I don't know, and I understand what I need to learn. So I would suggest to you that for some of you, you'll sit there and say, go back to your office. We're seeing too much of you. But it's my obligation to be transparent, to be objective, to constantly reach out for advice and opinions, and to demonstrate that the decision by the Chancellor and the Board of Regents was a damn good decision for KSU. And that's my obligation to do so. And I'm certainly committed in that regard. It's my pleasure to be with all of you tonight. I've stated numerous times my email. Y'all know where the office is. Reach out to me. Thank you. Victoria?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just as a reminder, for any of y'all's concerns or questions, our general body meetings are Wednesdays at 7 p.m. bi-weekly. So we have one this Wednesday, 2 days away, in the university room. So come out, talk to your senators, shoot me an email. My email is presidentbrock@ksusga.com. Thank you, guys.
Just curious, are you taking that for Sentinel or is it just for yourself?
I was just doing it for myself. I'm just going to put it on YouTube.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was for the section or not.
Oh.